Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. Good morning to you. I pray you are well today. I hope you're having a wonderful day on this Thursday in a steamy summer week. It is hot. So, hey, Donna, good morning. Peace to you. Karen, good morning to you. I don't care for it much either. It is, good morning, Irene. Hello. Good morning, everybody. Hey, Vicky. Imagine that means you're coming back. Hope you have safe travels today. I hope it's good for you. Good morning, everybody. Sorry, friends. We'll get going in just a second. Just good morning, good morning. Good morning, friends. It is the 13th day of July at 11:11, and I'm glad you're with us. I'm glad you're here. Glad you're a part of this journey. That I pray that good things are for you, in store for you this day. If I hope that there's wonder and goodness in all that you'll encounter. I want to keep talking about this, the 37th Psalm of David. Um, we talked a little bit about it yesterday, I think, and we'll talk a little more. And I just want to kind of keep going with it because there's, there's just another whole piece here that's just very delicious. And I think ready for our time. And there's this, there's this, it goes, here's this is just two verses, or three verses, 7, 8, and 9. So, Psalm 37. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who carries out wicked schemes. Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Do not fret. It leads only to evil doing. For evildoers will be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord, they will inherit the land. These three verses begin with this invitation to rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. To rest, to steady ourselves. And that's what I want to invite you to. You know, one of the great things about General Grant, from the Civil War fame, and is that he was amazingly steady under pressure. It was one of his signature things that that wherever he was and whenever he was in the battlefield, no matter what was going on, Grant was always cool. He was always there was this instant at City Point where one of the steamships in which this coming in blows up, and everybody jumps for the ground except Grant, who Grant actually starts running towards the steamship while there are still literally pieces of steamship and flying bodies and everything in the air. He runs towards the action, because there's another story where he is in the midst of battle, and the horse next to him is killed, and that the round comes in, and down goes the horse, and he's on this ridge line with these other officers, kind of surveying the battlefield and looking at what's going on through his binoculars, and he never flinches. He never looks to the horse. He never sees what was going. He never changes his outfit. He just realizes he continues to be about the task in which he's engaged in. And even later in life, this was true. There's a famous series of photographs of Grant taken by Alexander Gardner, the great Civil War photographer, and he is and they're in the studio, and Grant is and there isn't quite enough light in the studio, and so they send the assistant, Alexander's assistant, up to open up the skylight. But he slips and breaks the skylight under which Grant is sitting, and this entire shower of shards of glass come dumping down on Grant, and and everybody in the studio leaps and is horrified, but Grant never moves, and he never flinches, as simply as the glass comes showering down around him. When we hear these words of kind of rest in the Lord, we think about this really as this great kind of transcendental state, or having confidence in what God has given us. But I really think it's this beginning of as Ryan Holiday talks about it in his book, this ability to steady ourselves, and to simply be steady in the midst of what's going on around us, to ground ourselves. That the promise of Christ, when Christ comes back in the resurrection, the first promise Christ gives to the disciples on the return of the resurrection is, "My peace I give to you, my peace I leave with you." Now, peace and its corresponding bedfellow, innocence, I'll get to that in a minute, I think are really the hallmarks of heaven. They're the qualities of heaven. If you want to know something is heavenly in your life, does it bring you peace? And does it work towards the good of the whole? Does it bring a sense of innocence? And when I say innocence, I don't just mean we hear that wrong. I think sometimes in our modern idea that we hear that as kind of stupid, or as simple, or as basic. But that innocence is really, is it in accord with the divine design? Is it pure? Is it pure of heart? Do you have a genuine, like, if we think about intention, our innocent intention is not that it's like, it is that we're just are Pollyanna and foolish, but our innocent intention is that we build something, that we have a steadfast and sure desire. When we look at Grant, that's one of the reasons I want to talk about Grant as an example of this psalm, of what is called in the psalm, is because Grant's intent and his purpose carried with it an innocence. He literally would not be disturbed from death around him. He would not be disturbed from falling glass, from explosions. He would not be disturbed from his purpose and from that which he has set his mind to. That he was steady in a way that I think maybe in some ways few humans have ever been able to steady themselves. That he'd truly given himself to this notion of what it was is to rest in the Lord. To rest in that is to not just sit back and kick back and, hey, okay, everything's great. It is to be able to stand in the peace that Christ offers us, to stand fully in the confidence, and that which doesn't require us to be reactive to the things that come around us. You know, I talked a few days ago about this notion of reaction and how all we are is reactors. But, or I shouldn't say but, and in that, there is, however, this way in which we get to pick the reaction. And that there are I think, particularly in these days, there are so many things that are just trying to get a rise out of us. They're trying to damage our calm. They are trying to affect and break our abilities and our purpose and our innocence and our peace in this world. But I really truly believe that our peace and our innocence are linking, in many ways, are linking elements to God's love and God's grace for us. Again, it's the first thing that Jesus says upon the resurrection. My peace I leave to you. My peace I give to you. This isn't that, and that the kind of the things blowing up around us, the headlines going off, the things happening, the stuff going on around, it can quickly and easily get us into this frenzy, get us into this, get us all worked up, get us all jazzed up. But I would submit to you that the peace of God is actually what we are called to lean and rely on. And that's not a divorced thing from the world around us. That's not a disconnected thing from the world around us, but it's actually a very connected thing, but connected to the things that we can affect, the things that the purpose to which we are engaged and we are called upon, the focus upon which we are given. We've never been, no human alive has ever been more in an age of distraction than human beings in America in 2023. I'm quite convinced of this. That there are more distractions now than ever before. And that doesn't mean, and some of them are good, some are bad, some are happy, some are sad, but they all will have the incumbent result of damaging our calm, of losing our ability to connect with peace and with innocence, with peace, with the confidence of who we are and whose we are, and to be able to relax into that. Hear the psalm again. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way, which means, like, don't worry about the things that the people who are kind of doing other things over there. Because of the man who carries out wicked schemes, don't worry about all the things that are going wrong in this world. There's plenty of them. A whole bunch of us last night got together from the church and went to see The Sound of Freedom. There and I hope you'll see it. By the way, it's a powerful. If your heart can take it, it will ask something of you. But I hope you'll see it. But the question is how, and it will affect us. I mean, I'm not suggesting it doesn't affect us, but at the same time, how then do we carry this notion of human trafficking and all the incumbent horror that comes with that, and how do we elevate that, bring that up, give it to the Lord, so that we might be able to stay in peace and innocence, so that we might be able to stay in resting in the Lord. And that doesn't, again, Grant was one of the most dynamic people on the battlefield. This is not a suggestion that we're not supposed to do anything. But the question is can we move about our days? Can we be happy warriors? Can we engage in the tasks that God has called us to do? Can we be a part of the world? Can we engage in the world as it is and not lose and damage the calm and the peace that God has for us? That we begin with the peace, that we begin with the resting in the Lord, we begin with the waiting patiently upon Him, and we move from all things. And if we lose that as a result of the evil of the world and seeing the evil of the world or encountering it, if we lose it and because we get angry and we get bitter and we get upset because of the brokenness of the world, the anxiety overcomes us. That anxiety, that fret, that worry is only an avenue towards evil doing. It's only, do not fret. It leads to evil doing. Why does it lead to evil doing? Because once you're reactive, once you're anxious, once you're not in peace, you can get manipulated. Once you're in a reactive state, you can get manipulated into all sorts of things. You can get buttons can get pushed. And I would submit to you, much of our political life right now is a constant stream of reactive and moments of things that are pushing us towards reactivity, not actual considered ideas, considered policy, considered wisdom. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently on Him, because those who do will inherit the land. When that great window shattered and it fell down around Grant, he was unharmed largely because he wasn't thrashing around trying to escape the shards that were falling. That the battle he was fighting and the horse that died next to him was won and was executed as best it could be, because he was not running around with his hair on fire going, "Oh my God, a dead horse!" That if we want to truly inhabit the life that we have, it begins and ends with our willingness to put on board the peace of God that God has given us. To remember and to remind ourselves that, at some point in this journey, you kind of begin to realize that living and dying are kind of the same thing. That you realize that every day down is a day closer to home. That every day that we're moving through this world is actually not about how are we going to live, how are we going to do this thing, how are we going to live this life. Those are really young people's questions. The question that comes to us, after only a little while in this world, is more, how will I spend my days? How will I die well? How will I give myself over to the peace of God well? How will I meet my Maker well? How will it be when I stand before the one who spoke me into being in this world and calls me home? How will that encounter go? That are our questions early, quite quickly turn from what am I going to do to how shall I not just live, but how shall I die in this world? And that once we've died, this is the power of the entire story of the Christ, is that once we die, we are truly born to live. Which once we die, we truly overcome death. Once we understand that there is no death, there is simply moving from this world to this room to the next room. That we are held in God's hands, in God's love through that entire process. Once we step into that and we can rest in that, and that engenders in us peace, that engenders in us innocence, meaning, truth, purity of purpose. innocent. Don't hear innocence as as we need to go back to be like a baby. It actually means that innocence, that the birth of innocence is actually wisdom. That the adult embrace of innocence is actually wisdom. It is this purity of purpose. It is this knowing that all the things that can go wrong in the world, all the million ways that a shard could fall from the ceiling and cut you and break you, all the million ways that a cannonball flying at you could take your horse as quickly as another, or take your own life. That the way that a ship blowing up around you could easily rain down upon you horror and destruction, that all the things, it's knowing that and engaging that, and then still resting in God's confidence and God's love and God's beauty and God's joy for us in the midst of it. That we should know peace and innocence, that we should know that, and which is the heart of our wisdom. Friends, I hope that you will know this weekend a bit of resting in the Lord. That you can let yourself rest in God for a bit. Let him have it. Whatever it's got you all worked up. Even if you can't name it, even if you can't put a handle on it. Like, there's plenty of things. There's plenty of zeitgeist out there, kind of atmosphere, like, that crackling atmosphere before the lightning strikes. There's plenty of electricity in the air in everything that we are and everything that we're doing these days, that we can't even name the things that might be kind of leaping up to zap us necessarily. But no matter the condition, we can rest in the Lord. We can rest in God's love for us and God's grace. We can give over all that stuff that we can't affect, and that we can step into the peace and the innocence that is the byproduct of that. The peace of it, meaning that if we can't affect it, if we can't change it, if we can't do something right now, offer it up to God. And that and the innocence that of the where God has called us to be effect, where God has called us to move, where God has called us to dedicate ourselves with a purity of purpose that rivals the angels. Let us, this weekend, relax. It's high summer, friends. Take it easy. Rest in the Lord. And know peace, know innocence, know joy. For in that, all other things will come, and the whole land, the whole world will be yours. All right, that's my hope for you today. We are worshiping on Sunday at 9:00. If you remember that, on our Sunday schedule, we have a great worship series. We have 2 Sundays that we're going to be contending from the Gospel of Matthew and the gardening parables of Matthew, the sower and the wheat and the weeds that we're gonna kind of talk about over the next couple weeks. I hope you'll be a part of it. That how we might tend our lives and tend our being together. The things that would take us away and the things that would draw us closer. In all this, I hope you rest in the Lord and wait patiently on Him this weekend. And we'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.